welcome to another edition of Season 2 of Entrepreneurs in Fuego. With me I have Mark Huerta. We're documenting the journey of amazing entrepreneurs, one digital footprint at a time. 33 buckets. Mark, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well.
Man, you're a social entrepreneur. What you do is really commendable. Tell us, what is exactly 33 buckets?
All right. Well, basically, we define ourselves as clean water consultants. We go into developing regions, specifically communities in more remote rural areas, and we basically empower the people in these communities to organize themselves and set up a clean water distribution platform. And then from there, typically we put it in a school, and through a business we can sell the water for a very, very cheap price, make it more accessible for the local people, and then generate revenue for the school and support education and things like that.
I mean, now, are you doing this thing in a foreign country? Are you doing this thing in the United States?
Yeah, foreign country. Actually, we're launching 2 initiatives this summer, one in Peru and one in the Dominican Republic.
And do you find that perhaps there is a need for 33 buckets here in the United States, or did you have to?
I mean, there is actually. I mean, up in the Navajo Nation, there are areas lacking clean water. Yeah.
I mean, it's strange to ask the question like that, but you know, it seems to me that we're such a developed country that you wouldn't think that someone like 33 Buckets, that clean water initiative, would apply here in the United States, because we figure, we're the greatest nation in the world, and we just don't need those. But in fact, what you're saying is that
there are areas.
There are areas here, huh?
Yeah, the Navajo Nation. Yeah, there are many areas in the Navajo Nation. Even up here in Arizona, up north, there's areas where people don't have access to clean water.
What prompted you? What inspired you to go through this route? Because you are an ASU graduate. Yeah. And I mean, you could have gone any route really. Mm-hmm. But here you are doing 33 buckets. What inspired you to that?
So I took a course that ultimately inspired me to go on this trajectory and pursue 33 buckets. It was called Engineering Projects and Community Service. It's the EPICS program at ASU, and it's basically a program designed to give engineering students an experiential learning experience, so working on a real community service project. A lot of them are local, but some of them are global projects. So I got put on a project to basically provide clean water to a girls' school in rural Bangladesh. And so over the course of 3 years while I was pursuing my engineering degree and ultimately my master's degree, we developed the project, the concept. We studied a lot of other people that are nonprofits and are just trying to start these clean water initiatives and stuff like that, and we looked at, like, why do so many of these projects fail? Right. They go in, they put the filter, but then a year later nobody's really doing anything with it. So we really, after studying all these different people and some of the things that didn't go well, we really felt like a business was the best way to go about solving these clean water issues in these rural areas. And it incentivizes somebody to manage the business, and they can generate just enough revenue to pay for themselves and then cover the maintenance of the filter and things like that. And then furthermore, if you have the filter on site in that community, you can distribute it very cheaply to the people, and make it more cheaply available.
Why 33 buckets? Why the name 33 buckets?
Yeah, we get that question a lot, actually.
And I mean, my first thought was, before you answered this, my first thought was, all right, you could probably say, well, maybe this is a religious kind of driven program, and I can see the 33 number in there, justified in the name. But then I also think maybe it's just a secular program. So why the 33? Why the 33 name, man?
Yeah, it's only because we use 33 buckets in our solution. No, only 33 buckets is allowed per day to distribute water. No, actually, one of the main contaminants that we were dealing with in Bangladesh was arsenic. And arsenic is
the 33 element in the table.
Very good. Yeah, you know your chemistry. Wow, there you go. Boom. Yeah, so 33 is the atomic number of arsenic, and that was one of the contaminants we were dealing with. And it's a very dangerous element. It's you can't smell it, you can't taste it, and it's naturally occurring in the ground. So even though it's present in the water, a lot of the people don't really know it's there unless you do tests and stuff. And so that's how the 33 came. And in the buckets, we initially started, we were doing a lot of our prototyping with buckets and testing different filtration technologies. So we just put it together, 33 buckets, filtering out arsenic one bucket at a time.
Oh, that's really cool. That's very innovative. Now, did you find that the technology needed to catch up to the mission? I mean, could you have done this maybe 10 years ago? Was the technology available then to do this, or did you have to wait for the technology to catch up to implement this product?
That's actually a very, very good question. And on my first assessment trip to Bangladesh for the first project, we actually found that the technology is there. It's readily available in these major cities that are located really close to these rural areas. So the technologies existed for many years. I mean, whether it's reverse osmosis or I don't know, UV filtration, chlorine works for bacteria and things like that. The problem was getting these technologies in these rural areas, organizing these communities so that they can actually manage the technology, maintain it, and then fill up containers and distribute it. So kind of like setting up the distribution platform is the difficult part, not so much that the technology exists, because it does and it has existed for a long time. With that being said, there are more appropriate technologies depending on the area you're working with. So for example, chlorine is one of the most common used methods because it's cheap, it's available in most areas. But a lot of people in these rural areas will not like the taste of chlorine if you put it in their water, and there's issues with putting the right concentration of it in the water and things like that. So, I mean, although there's these different solutions, sometimes you have to kind of pick the right one for a specific community. So actually the one we're going with in Peru, for example, is ultrafiltration technology. Basically, the water goes through a membrane and it catches all the bacteria because the membranes only allows a certain micron level, so any molecules bigger than that micron level will just get blocked by the membrane.
Right.
And so the cool thing about that is it'll last at least 7 years with just like a little 5 minutes of daily maintenance and things like that. So it's a really cool technology because you don't have to replace anything, there's no chlorine taste in the water, so things like that will work better in certain communities.
So the idea is to be able to filtrate the water to distribute it to the local population, to the local community.
Yeah.
How about storing the water? Is there a plan for that as well?
Yeah, and that's an interesting issue as well, because it's one thing to clean the water and provide clean water, but then if people go there and they're filling up containers that are dirty, you're not really providing them clean water. So that is an issue we've given a lot of thought to. And so the way we want to distribute the water is we'll have our own cleaning station at the site, at the distribution point. And it'll be kind of like, you may see this at different grocery stores and stuff like that, but we actually provide the container with the clean water, and then they bring the container back when they're done, and then we clean their container and then give them another container with clean water. So we handle all the cleaning and all that, so they don't have to worry about it.
What the response that you see and the reaction that you see from the local communities once you give them something that is potable, that is drinkable, it's got to be just amazing. It's got to be it's got to be an incredibly rewarding experience. Yeah,
and it's very, I wasn't sure the reaction I'd get from some of these communities and stuff like that, because you read sometimes communities aren't that open to this kind of stuff, but so far the two communities we've worked with have been so receptive of it, so welcoming, and it's especially in Bangladesh, the people there are just so warm-hearted, and it's very fascinating. We think we're very privileged in the States, and we are. We have all this infrastructure in place, and things that we take for granted, like having access to clean water, air conditioning, temperature control, things like that, are beautiful things, and they make our lives more convenient. But over there, the life is very simple. The people are very content and happy, and so welcoming and giving, and so as much as I like to think I helped them, they helped me so much and gave me such a different perspective on life in general. So
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing. I mean, it's really commendable what you're doing. So what is the future for you?
The future. So we're launching 2 initiatives this summer. one in Peru, one in the Dominican Republic. We actually have an Indiegogo campaign going on right now for the Dominican Republic trip. So the goal is to get those two businesses up and running. And one of the big things is creating a sustainable financial model for us. And so most companies like this go the nonprofit route and ask for donations and things like that. But we actually want to work with local governments. So in Peru and the Dominican Republic, there's an increasingly growing awareness of this issue and how it's a barrier for a lot of people in advancing, because if their children and stuff are still getting sick from clean water, it's taking them away from school. Or in many of these countries, they have to go fetch the clean water from distances far away where the water source is far. So they kind of realize the value in what we're doing, and so we've had those preliminary talks to get funded by the governments. So that's the long-term goal.
That's cool. Just an amazing thing. And since you're in Peru, you're just south of Ecuador. Be careful when you go to Ecuador, to the Amazon, to the jungle, because you'll find my my cousins and everybody else will still shrink heads and eat people and things like that. Not really. I'll give you a pass before you go. With that, you're doing great, man. With that, we're out.
We're out.